I'm Willis Sassy with Western States Equipment. I'm the commissioning guy. And this is some training for how to operate your standby generator. So we'll start over on this side, just the maintenance end of it's pretty straightforward. Here's the dipstick over here. Just keep it between add and full. And these gassers do use a little bit of oil.
530 weight.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'll have to check and see, but.
Do you have a list of filters like the cross ref, or do we have to always buy cat?
You don't, you can figure it out. I mean, we'll get the cat numbers on this guy and then the other filter. We do have crosses on some of them.
Okay.
I know some cat filters cross just from our cat machinery.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a,
And then the battery's over on this side too.
there,
You got a disconnect
Group
switch.
31, no disconnect on it. It's low maintenance, and you can check the electrolyte level on it. It's got some caps, flush caps. I recommend changing that every 3 years. Again, FPA says 24 to 36 months, and that's typically what we do. And you're that way you're about half-life on the battery. The coolant heater's down here, and check that thing weekly. Just touch it with your hand, see if it's warm. Because
Sorry, voltage.
120.
120, I think it's 1500 watts. I didn't,
Yeah.
about 1500 or 1000.
1000 watt,
1000.
120 volt.
Is that kind of like the same?
It looks like.
And it's just a thermal siphon heater is what it is.
Right.
So.
It looks just
So
like
it's
the ones
hot
on,
starts.
Yep.
looks like the ones on all the
And
other.
here's your overflow for the radiator. It's got a line on it. It's got extended life coolant in it, cat extended life coolant. And you probably don't want to mix it because sometimes you end up with some sludge if you mix them. And really, I mean, that's an engine. You got your air filter here. Turbocharged. I guess we could go over on the other side and look at that, unless anybody got any questions over here. Here's a battery charger. It has a voltmeter and ammeter on it, just analog meters. It's plugged into a receptacle down here. And also the coolant heater is plugged into this receptacle also. And then the oil filter, and you got an oil drain port right here and a shutoff valve on it, the oil drain. And it's got I believe this 1/4 inch pipe plug on it. And then this, I mean, well, there's your part numbers for the air filter and then the oil filter. And your catalyst, it goes out the exhaust. There's a louver here to recirculate your air in the room. And then your outlet louver's up near the ceiling there.
They're controlled by thermostat sometimes.
No, just generator running.
Just when it goes,
Yeah,
it opens.
when the generator runs. And then your fresh air intake here, that's controlled by the same way too. There's a louver right here. And this guy here to bring fresh air in. Okay, the control panel has 3 buttons. We got to run to manually run, auto, and stop. And you, like any of these panels, you pretty near got to play with them and wander through the menu. You can't really do much to here that you can damage anything. It's got indicator lights here. Here's a warning. This is a yellow light. I'll put one here, there. And if you acknowledge it, then the light's solid. So it blinks till it's acknowledged. And this one is a shutdown. It's a red light. If that's active, you aren't going to run. So I can give you one of them. There's an e-stop. Same thing, you can acknowledge that. And then it's solid. To clear a fault, we go through, you want to get event log, and then you scroll through it. It says genset control, active events, and then you go up and down through that menu. There's an e-stop is active. If we want to clear that, first we reset the button, which I already did, and then we can reset. And then it asks all events, reset all events okay, and you put the okay. And then it'll be ready to roll again. And you can't, when the thing is shut down, you cannot see coolant temp or oil pressure. It's not communicating with the engine until it gets a crank output from this genset controller. So I'd recommend, like with a coolant heater, just to put your hand on it.
Oh, so like right
Yeah.
now, you can't see what.
No, you can't see it. And this menu here is engine stuff. With this gas engine, the way they do that, there's a timer on when they power that up.
So it's different with the diesel?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the early diesels were that way too. And then the engine arrow, you go up and down in the arrow, you can tip more stuff in the menu. If you can see that there.
Right.
And then the generator stuff, same thing. You can go up and down in the menu. And this menu, main menu, you can go through it and wander through that too and look at the event logs, or this will take you right to it too.
How do you clear that warning?
The warning,
Yeah.
You go back.
put it back in auto.
Oh, okay.
That's a not in auto.
All right.
So that one goes away. So basically what you want to do is make sure your breakers are closed, the thing's in auto, and that's, you know, the basic stuff. And you got one breaker over here too on this side.
I was gonna say, okay. 3 switches.
Yep, 3 switches, each got a breaker on them to feed them. Let's see, any more on this? Your others have similar controls to this?
We got the same panel on
Same panel?
the Cat diesel out at Cooley, yeah.
Okay,
It's a little bit different as far as the display goes. You can read all of that without the engine stuff. You can see the temperature
Right.
of the coolant and some of the other things without it running.
right.
So I'm just curious.
So what is this
Yeah,
manual
that's what
analog temp gauge actually
Yeah.
hooked to?
Yep, that
It looks
is,
like it's like
That oil or?
I think
that's like
that's
it's
oil.
like gear oil. In my
Engine oil
knowledge,
temp.
that would be like
Engine
transmission
oil
oil temp.
temp.
Is what I'm used to seeing
And when it's cranking, you get, this light comes on
just when
when
cranking.
you got an output. Actually, when it's running, I think it's on too.
Okay. So this is engine oil temp.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Where do you read the run hours on the piece of equipment?
Right in this main menu, engine, the engine display, which the engine button, and
Right there, hours.
the hours are 0.6 hours, and the battery voltage right above that,
Yeah.
13.5. So,
Okay, the reason I asked is that the maintenance interval schedule is all driven by the number of run hours.
yeah, for standby, you don't normally do that.
Okay.
You
Just
do it
do,
yearly?
yeah, just do it time, because you're not going to get the hours unless you have
No.
a
Right.
major,
We only get about 30 or 40 hours.
and that's
a
normal,
year.
yeah. But yeah, with maintenance, I mean, yeah, change oil once a year. And on this, I mean, normally I'd say load bank them once a year too, but this one is going to be a challenge.
Right. Three breakers.
Yeah, I mean, if you was to do that, you could put a disconnect outside where you could access it. I mean, that's something down there if you wanted to load it.
Yeah, I've been fighting that battle.
It's not going too good.
No, they don't want to spend the money on a load bank.
Yeah. I guess we could go to the transfer switches. These transfer switches all have the same controller. So they're going to behave the same. The menu, there's got an event log. Push more, And then EV log is event log. The last 16 events it will log. And then it rolls out the older ones. And the 2 and 3 arrows go through that event log. So we had some here where I created some today. Guess I used up the whole menu. And the number 1 is the latest one, and it gives you a timestamp also. Then escape takes you back out of here. And to do a test, won't do it right now, but you push the test button, and then a fast test, as long as you hold the button, the switch is transferred to generator. And transfer load will transfer it, and you'll have a return to normal time delay of 30 minutes before it returns. No transfer, just starts the generator. These two where it transfers, you have to hold them till it transfers. If you let go, you'll have the cooldown timer will come into play. It will not transfer. And also in here you can set your exerciser. And then the clock, I've set the clock. Daylight savings on. And then a weekly exercise you can set. The NL is no load. And LD for load. And you go through the menu and set that. It asks for a password. The password is 121212 in reference to these buttons here. I like to remember it. If you can count the 2 3 times, you got her. And this one, well, I guess I can go through here. So here's where the code. So save, this is exercise number 1. And then if I want load or no load, and then I'm going to go back out rather than save it, because then you go the day you want it to done.
Do you know if they want these exercises on load or no load?
We'll back out of here. But just wander through there. And that's because the set points in here too are adjustable. Under frequency, we got 54 hertz and restored 57. I've left them on default settings. And voltage, and then we got imbalance. We also got in-phase monitor turned on. So it looks at both sources, and when it's within 5% or 5 degrees, it'll go. It'll allow a transfer. And it has on a display on the screen. We'll show that later when it's syncing. It's a passive sync, it's not an active. So the generator frequency set at 60.1 hertz, utility is 60, so that lets it go just a little faster, so it'll run in and out of that sync window, which gives you a pretty smooth sync. And we've got a cool down delay of 5 minutes. And you can calibrate your voltage readings at that point. This menu here, you got voltage, all 3 phases on your utility, and it'll read A to B phase on generator. It'll read you 1. And if there's any timer that's active, it'll show in that screen. And you can't access the caliber or the configure screen if it's running, or if you got an outage or anything. Any questions on the switch? To do a test, we'll do a fast test. No, I'll just do a load test. So push the test and then transfer load. Ask for the password. 121212. We have to hold this button until it transfers. Yes.
So it'll run as long as you want it to?
Yeah. Yeah, I bypassed the time delays.
Okay.
So you might wanna just reiterate everything that you just said there after that thing started.
Okay. When you push the test button, you have to hold it until it transfers. If you're going to do a transfer test.
Yep.
I won't do it again, but I'll just,
You said that you had some time delays there. so
yeah,
you
there's a
set
time
this up.
delay. Return to normal time delay comes up first.
And you set that at 30 minutes?
I set that at 30.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there's a 5-minute cool down after
Right.
that.
Okay.
And then you see the deal going across the screen. That tells you your voltage difference between your
Right.
sources. Yeah. The remote annunciator lets you know of faults in the generator. It's not in auto right now. It's blinking and the horn is making noise until you acknowledge it. Wrong button. You acknowledge it, the horn goes quiet and the light is solid. There's also a test for testing the lights. You just hold that, and then it cycles through them. Here, it's actually kind of neat. It does each one individually then. So your normal, this in the normal mode is just going to see a green communication light at the bottom and nothing else being lit. And then if you got a fault, of course, this isn't the shutdown fault, but the generator is not available either because it's not an auto. But the shutdown faults will be red and the warnings will be amber.
Is that on timer?
No, nope.
So once they acknowledge it, it stays like that?
Yeah, once you acknowledge it,
We'll go back and alarm.
yeah. So that's it. I mean, that's a good way to remember if the thing's blinking or not. Say the horn fails, it burns out or something, and if that light's blinking, that means nobody's acknowledged it yet. But if it's solid, you know somebody's seen it.
Yeah.